Hey guys, Joker the Fool here, back at it again with what I believe to be the 17th episode of Poll Review. And if you don't know about Poll Review, I do the daily poll on EG, and every week I go through the last seven and go through basically the results, why I chose the topic, and the replies of you guys down below. And without further ado, we're going to start with Daily Poll 120. Did you buy Bloodstained Ritual of the Night? And I did this because, well, the game had released. It was a Kickstarter project that I didn't back at the time when you could back it, but I was aware of it, and I was thinking about backing it, but I ultimately did not. And at the time of this poll, I didn't buy Bloodstained, but I bought it pretty close to end of June, I think. So I bought it a few days ago, and I've had a good bit of fun with it so far. So I haven't gotten past the first boss yet, because I'm not too good at these types of games, but it looks really good. The voice acting, from what I've heard so far, is on point, and it plays like a classic side scroller. So very fun in those regards, but. The results of this poll, we got 16% who haven't bought Bloodstained and don't have any plans to. 26% haven't bought Bloodstained but will in the future. 20% haven't bought Bloodstained but might in the future. 23% pre-order Bloodstained, and then 13% backed Bloodstained on Kickstarter. So pretty interesting, pretty split across the board, and we're going into the replies. And the first one's from Retro84. He says he was going to pick it up on Switch, but he hears it's a bit iffy at the moment. Lots of frame drops, so he hears don't mind the graphic reductions, but he needs a consistent FPS. Unfortunately, the Switch is all he has. He doesn't have a PC, so he's going to have to wait and hope that it gets patched. So they are planning on patching it. The Switch version has been the one that has sold the most so far, from what I've heard. And so yeah, the thing is that the frame rate has a lot of drops, and there's a lot of issues with input lag, but they said that they're going to fix it, but they're going to fix it like slowly over time. So it's probably going to be like a few weeks, maybe a few months even, till it's at a smooth 30 FPS. Well, smooth 30 FPS is sort of but consistent 30 FPS, and hopefully they got the input lag down quite a bit. But they made a lot of money off the game. It's a good team behind the project, so hopefully they do patch it. Because if they patch it, then more people will buy it, and that's all good and well with the world. But we'll move on to the next comment from DubZ, who backed it and bought it, backed it on Kickstarter and selected a physical Vita version, got Curse of the Moon prequel game free. Then they offered refunds for Vita backers after that version was canceled with cart production ending. So he got $60 and then paid $40 for digital on PS4 when it released. He kind of feels like getting a physical copy now, to be honest. So yeah, so that is pretty interesting. And well, obviously the Vita is a bit of a dead console now, so it makes sense why they had to do that and go with the Switch, and they did it with the Wii U. So with the Wii U, the Wii U version was canceled, and then I guess the physical Vita version was canceled. But did they still make it on the Vita? Because I know there was a team that made like Metal Gear Solid HD collection. They were responsible for making the Vita version, if I'm correct. And so I'm getting into a bit of a tangent, but so that happens with crowdfunding, where things changed, things happen when the rewards are promised, that makes it so that way you can't fill those rewards. So pretty interesting. But we're going to move on to Daily Poll 121. Do you use third-party controllers? And yes, do you use third-party controllers? And I don't have any particular reason for coming up with this one. I just had this in my mind. So I've said this before, to long-time viewers. This is a bit of like a broken record. But a lot of these poll ideas, they just come into my mind. I'm like, that's a good idea, and then I do it. So 4 people, 12% don't use controllers to play games. 31% only use first-party controllers, and then 56% use both first and third-party controllers. I had a Mad Catz GameCube controller. I still have it. Well, it doesn't really work because it's a bit iffy. But basically, everything after that, as far as I can remember, has been a first-party controller, because I've got an Xbox One controller that I use for PC games. I got the DualShock 4 that came with my PS4 that I got in Christmas of 16, and that still works just fine, and I quite like it a lot. And then I've got Switch Joy-Con, Switch Pro controller, and then I've got NES Classic and SNES Classic, but with their respective controllers, and I got a Wii U with the gamepad, the Wii U Pro controller, but I don't play on the Wii U too much these days. But I do have a Wii U game that I need to. Oh, there's a couple of Wii U games that I want to. Maybe not a couple, maybe like one or two, that I want to get through. But yeah, so that is me. What do you guys say? We got Necromancer X69 that says that he remembers the time he bought Tiger Direct controllers for the PS2 and Xbox One for PC use. So yeah, he uses first party and third party controllers when needed. So yeah, pretty interesting. Tiger is an old company. They sort of were like a bit before my time, because I was born in the late 90s. So I think with like some of the Happy Meals that I got, they had like those like Tiger. I'm not sure if they were made by Tiger, but it was like the same sort of shtick that Tiger made most of their money on. Was just like those. You get the LCD and then it just flashes between the pictures. I remember getting some of those. They probably were made by Tiger, but or based off of Tiger design. So that's my only experience with like anything close to Tiger, and I'm like not even sure if those were made by Tiger. But we'll move on to the next comment, who is from Daz of the Droid, who says there's many third-party controllers that work just as, if not better than first-party controllers. You just need to know which ones. And I think this is pretty agreeable of a statement. Third-party controllers have definitely gotten a lot better. There's ones that are like really high end, and they have more features than the first party controllers. And then fight sticks are all third party controllers, from what I know, and those are you can get a cheap one or you get a good one. It depends on the manufacturer. So Daz the Droid is right, but for me personally, first party controllers are pretty good, have been pretty good to me, and I prefer to stick with those. So I wanted to get another GameCube controller, and I got the Smash Bros. One that Nintendo made, because Nintendo, because I think Nintendo makes the best GameCube controllers. But that's just me. I'm sure there's other times where the third party controllers are better than the first party ones. There are some like Nintendo 64 controllers where it's designed to actually be usable by two human hands, so that's pretty nice. But we're going to move on to the next daily poll, which is 122. Are you willing to play games with ads? And there's a specific reason for this. NBA 2K19 had been putting ads in the loading screen. This isn't apparently the first time they did it. And this is another. Is this another one? This is another one where I forgot to put in the last poll, so I'm gonna have to fix that once I'm done filming this. But that aside, so NBA put ads into the game. They had done this before, and but it became a bigger story now because they sold it for dirt cheap, so more people were playing it, I suppose, and it was pretty egregious how they were doing it. But this is an interesting question, to pose, like, are you willing to play games with ads? And I did misword, the first option a bit, and there's one option that should have been added. I'm not sure if I have the comment in here, and I forget who exactly said it, but I'll get into that once I get into the comments. So the results: I don't play games where ads can be patched in, 21%, and by this I meant like legacy games. Like, I know there are forum members who they don't play modern online games. They play stuff like old PC games, PlayStation 1 games that are that were physically released and aren't getting patched by any, or don't have any active development team patching in content. or they aren't even on systems with internet connections. Those sorts of games. So I should have said like I only play games that are legacy media. That probably would have been the better way to say it. So I'm sorry if that confused anybody, because I think it did. But we got 68% who won't play games with ads in it, and we've got 18% who play free games with ads in them, and 9% who play games with ads in them if they can get the game cheaper, and then 3% don't care if a game has ads in it. So move on to the comments, and this is going to be an interesting discussion. I got a little bit of a rant to go. Well, not necessarily a rant, but we got Majestic Bargo, who says there's no way he paid more money for a game that's full of ads. Stuff like this, what keeps driving him further and further away from mainstream video games and from upgrading to a next gen console. And I gotta agree with this, because this is a pretty slimy way to this is a pretty slimy thing, and it feels unintrusive, and it feels very much like a corporate decision by these companies. And this is what's dominating the games industry these days, are these really corporate anti-consumer decisions by a lot of the companies. Epic, Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, with some things I'd say are pretty anti-consumer. Look at their online service, it's not very good, but that's one whole thing. But yeah, this is definitely pretty nefarious. And paying money for a game that has advertisements isn't, what most people find to be appealing. But we'll move on to the next comment, from Ulix, if I'm saying that correctly. I hope I am. Who thinks ads in mobile games and premium games are fine. I expect them already. I understand that they still need to make money. However, I'm paying $60 for any game. I don't want to see a single ad during any loading screen. In his opinion, a better opinion would be for the game to have a news section or an ad bar in the title screen or main menu. If they need to include ads in the games, like this gameplay is sponsored by Walmart, or is there a new notification section on the menu? So it goes into with sports games, putting lines in them, things that wouldn't necessarily break immersion, and that is pretty agreeable. But I forget exactly who said this, and I'm sorry if I forgot the name, and I probably would have been a nice comment to put in, but I only do two. Every one of these are two that I happen to pick, so I'm sorry about that. But this was a very good option that I did forget to put in, and I should have put it in, because it would have been interesting to see how many people would have voted for this, was to put in options where saying, like, I'll take ads in a game rather than microtransactions. So it is a pretty interesting idea if the game has ads in it instead of the microtransactions, in order to make enough money for the game to be profitable. I'm wondering how many people would necessarily want to go for that. I'm sure most people will want, well, I don't want there to be ads or microtransactions in a game. That's how they function that's how people's minds function, because back for a lot of the gaming industry, we didn't have these microtransactions, and we didn't have ads in games, for core gamers, and they still don't. They want, to not have that level of corporatism in there, but it might be a necessity for the industry. But it would have been an interesting poll option. So I'm sorry that I did not put that in there. It did not come to me at the time, and I'm sorry I forgot who made that suggestion. But I put every poll I talk about in the description, so you can check out this thread and see that comment, because it wasn't my idea. I gotta emphasize that. But it was a good one. So we're going to move on to Daily Poll 123, and this is how many games you plan on buying during the Steam Summer Sale. And Steam Summer Sale is going on. I figured to ask people how many they're going to buy. 46% aren't buying any, 6% are buying one, 20% buying two, 6% buying three, 20% are buying more than 3 games are going to sell. Only bought one game during the Steam sale so far, and I think it ended like yesterday. That was Doom, and I did get Bloodstained, but I got it on GOG. I also got Stardew Valley on GOG, just to install mods on it, and I've been having some sort of trouble with that. But we're going on to the replies. Star Magician says 0. He's not buying anything from Steam for the time being. I think that there's a lot of people of this mindset who think they got so many games at this point. There's not stuff that interests them. They don't think the Steam sales are as good as they were in the past, which I can definitely agree with. In some ways, is that Steam sales quality has declined. I'm going to do a poll on that eventually, but it might probably be the next one. The one on Sunday. Because hopefully this video will be up late Saturday. And we've got Nen. I think that, I don't know if I don't know. I'm just going to call you Nen for now. Who initially limited himself to Bloodstain, but seeing Divinity Original Sin going for $12 certainly changed his mind. He's been largely disappointed with Steam sales in the past few years. The discounts aren't nearly as big as the ones that made Steam sales as popular as it is now, and hardly any of the games he wants are ever on sale during these huge sale events anymore. And assuming a friend picks it up, Divinity Original Sin 2 will also probably be purchased. So, pretty interesting. I think the Steam sales were more grandiose events in the past. Maybe that's because I was younger back then, and the Steam sales were basically the only time where games were affordable enough for me to buy them. So I could scrape up whatever I could to get a $20, maybe $50 Steam card if I was lucky enough, and then just go to town. Whereas now, I'm just more able to buy games kind of whenever I want to, or it's I can, but I got a budget and everything, so that's probably one reason. But definitely one thing, Valve done, all the flash sales are gone. I remember there was one sale where they had games that the community could vote on to go on sale, and stuff like that was really cool. And Valve doesn't really do that anymore, because they have become definitely a little bit, they've become really complacent, because, they got a good launcher for the most part. A lot of features in it, a big user base in all these games, and people are really used to Steam, so that's why there's this comfort with users, and definitely comfort with Valve themselves to not really improve other than doing some VR stuff, which is cool. And I would definitely want a Vive. The Cosmos looks pretty cool, and that you don't need those cameras to place around the room. It's got all the cameras on the unit itself, so it makes it a lot more usable in more situations. So that'd be something to pick up, but it's also really expensive. It's only for a limited section of the market, and it doesn't affect the millions and millions of Steam users who actually use Steam as their main way to play games. But we're going to Daily Poll 124. Are you willing to pay more than $60 US for next gen AAA games? And I think well, we've got the next generation. It's going to start 2020, and so this is and this topic's been talked about before. I think Gundam mentioned it in a video. Extra Credits made a video saying that the game prices need to go up, but that's a whole thing. But basically, I'm interested in seeing if you guys are willing to pay more than $60, and 10% aren't willing to buy AAA games at any price. 35% will only buy AAA games at $60 USD or less. 24% will only buy AAA games for less than $60 USD, and 29% are willing to buy AAA games for more than USD. So yeah, with options 2 and 3, I guess it's a bit confusing. Aileron pointed this out to me. But I will have to respectfully disagree, because when I mean $60 USD or less, it's I'm willing to buy a AAA game for full price, and obviously I'm willing to pick it up. I guess it implies that you're willing to pick it up for less, but I just wanted to be in there to be specific. And then, buying then for less than option 3, are only for the people who will wait for AAA games to go when price drops. So that was what I was getting at. And so it seems like most people fall into the category of wanting to keep at paying 60 or less, because that's about 22, and then we only got 11. who are willing to buy AAA games for more than 60. So we're going to go into the comments. We got Majestic Goat again. If they make a game that's finished and properly beta tested before release, then he's got no problem paying $80 for a new game. Keeping the price same will only cause the current epidemic of MTX in-game ads in games as a service. And he mentions that inflation's gone up, so paying $60 for a game today is only paying about $46 for a game back in 2005, and then $60 in 2005 was, about close to $80 in today's money. So, the argument is that since it stayed at 60 and it hasn't gone up, there's been a decline in quality because studios are getting less money. And that definitely is an argument, but essentially they are putting in the microtransactions to up the profits. So I do think there's places where a lot of AAA games can cut back. I think in the marketing, Quartering's mentioned this a few times, but I think a lot of marketing that these companies do, like EA paying like millions of dollars for influencers to stream their games, I think it's unnecessary. If you make a good game and you post like a trailer to YouTube or something like that, it's going to naturally create buzz because it's a good quality thing. That's the way I view it. So I'm not sure if you need to spend all this money on marketing or all this money on hiring all these maybe really expensive voice actors or going for the absolute best motion capture or these sorts of things. So, but I'm just a average dude, so I don't know too much about how to budget these things. So I could be wrong. I'm definitely willing to accept that I'm not right all the time. But we're moving on to the next comment from Balta666, who is not willing to pay more than this, and the whole story of inflation is very nice, but it does not take into account several things that are different from 50 years ago, like removal of game booklets in the physical copy, growth of digital distribution with profit margins much bigger than physical media. People can eat as much as they want. I guess he meant say as much as they want that AAA games are losing money, and therefore they had to add MTX, but it's not true. And the reason for that is shareholders demand growth of profits every quarter. And I think, and definitely in a way, I can agree with this, but you got to keep in mind, even if so if you're making a digital copy, you don't have to pay the price to physically ship a unit, so that is more money that they're definitely making off of every digital copy sold. But you also have to take into account that you still have to pay a platform fee for most of these studios, most of these AAA publishers, unless you're like Ubisoft, Origin, or CD Projekt Red, where they get to keep all of the profits from the games they sell because it's on their own platform. But even then, they have to pay. They're not going to make it. They're not going to make it cheaper because that money, some of that money they have to use to keep, every the 5 sales of Anthem on the PC version. Some of that money is going into making sure that the Origin servers stay up and the Anthem servers aren't as buggy. But you definitely have a point here in that, since, there is more money that these companies are making, but it's not like digital distribution absolutely eliminates anything eating into profit margins. So profit margins could still not be good enough where they wouldn't feel comfortable like shipping that and only that on an online game. And shareholders are always going to demand growth. They're always going to want growth every quarter, and you have to have these live services. So that is definitely something that is a very toxic mindset. But it's really hard to say how profitable like Ubisoft or EA, how profitable EA would be if they made good games instead of casinos. But it probably would be less money. But their public opinion would be a lot better. But apparently EA doesn't care or understand why people don't like EA because they're making money, and that's pretty sad. But we're going to move on to Daily Poll 125. Do you replay games? I had done this before, and I copied this poll from basically verbatim for the first time I did it, and I got criticism for this because I should have done like sometimes, occasionally, and always, which would have simplified this before, and I think it would have been a better pull for it. So if I ever do this a third time, which I'm not sure if I even wanted to, if I ever do, I will stick to that method. And we've got 20% who say they replay every game that they can, 5% haven't replayed any games, 2% have replayed 3 games, and then 70% have replayed more than 3 games. So most people do replay games. We've got Lord Banagar, who says, yes, especially story-heavy games with branching storylines. Even if they don't have a branching story, he may return and replay it several months or even years later if they left a good impression on him. So yeah, that's definitely understandable. I replayed Mass Effect. I've replayed Mass Effect 2 at least 4 times, and that part of that is I just love the story and the immersion of it, and trying to get that perfect ending, which I did once. I got one perfect ending in Mass Effect 2, and in order to do that, you have to play Mass Effect 1. But I'm not going to get into that because in the interest of time. We've got Aileron, who says he's not counting games that are designed to be played over and over, RTS, 4X, racing, match-type games, etc. For games where you play through a story or map over multiple gameplay sessions, no. Don't play through those a second time. He hardly ever finishes playing through them the first time. That's definitely life for you. You don't have time to do the things that you want, so if you're lucky enough to have enough time to beat a game, it's like, well, I want to beat the other, I want to try and beat the other 20 games that I bought and I've never played before. But we're going to go on to Daily Poll 126. Do you think you will see a Switch revision in 2019? And this has basically been rumored heavily. The Switch Mini is essentially an open secret right now. It's going to happen, but when it happens, I'm not sure. But we'll go into the results. For 16% don't care about the Switch. 20% say there isn't enough information for them to decide. 12% there will say there will be a Switch revision in 2019. 24% say there won't be a Switch revision in 2019, and then 28% say there might be a Switch revision in 2019. So we're going on to the replies, and we got Majestic Beauregard again 3 times. Just his comments are so good. So I try to do everything unique, but at the same time I try to go for the best comments. So sometimes you'll see multiple people. We will see one person appear multiple times. And I did this because, pointing this out, that our Review Tech USA on the 20th of June posted a video showing that a Chinese company was already designing accessories for the Switch with screen caps on their website. And then yesterday, the 28th of June, he posted another video about a Spanish retailer briefly listing accessories for the Switch Mini on their website. The Switch Mini is all but officially confirmed, and thanks to that, I basically know that now. But still, even if it is it is a thing that exists, essentially, and there's been so many rumors about it. I've heard maybe it might have a 1080p screen and a new chip. So who knows? We won't know until we get the thing in our hands and tear it down. So this is why I put this comment in here, just to point out that it's not a speculative thing. There's a lot of evidence for it being a thing. But we're going to move on to Dazzle the Droid again. It's possible, of course, anything is, but it would have to be somewhat divergent. A somewhat divergent course for Nintendo, would it not? Historically, they've always stood by their hardware failing or not true. The Switch is running right now. There would be no reason for any kind of standpoint to jeopardize or risk that. Nintendo ain't stupid. Well, Dazzle the Droid. The DS Lite came out a few years. I'm not sure, maybe a year or two after the DS, and the DS was stupidly successful. I have the original DS. That's all I got. My sister's got the DS Lite, but the DS, and it's a much better system, the Lite, than the original DS. But Um, but Nintendo does traditionally redesign the consoles that are successful, and the ones that aren't successful, they haven't. So the N64, the GameCube, and the Wii U all weren't up to snuff with their competition commercially, and they never got remade. Game Boy got a lot of revisions, DS got a lot of revisions, and the Wii got two revisions, I think. So Nintendo, why? Okay, so Nintendo traditionally has had a portable console and a home console. And one of the reasons that they go and do mobile gaming, is traditionally that you can provide a mobile system at a much cheaper price point than a home console. And that cheaper price point gets more people to buy. Like parents are going to buy them for their young kids because they aren't that expensive. The 2DS was $80, so it's pretty easy, thing for a parent who might not have the most money might not have the most money to buy for their kid, rather than a $300 Wii U, or rather than the $300 Wii U, or even something like maybe like a Wii that's like $250 or whatever. So $80 2DS is a much easier pill for them to swallow. So the Switch right now is only at one price point, $300. Sometimes it drops, but below that, but it is a $300 system, and it's not able to capture the same market that the 2DS and the Nintendo's other portable consoles have traditionally been able to target. So a Switch Mini would be a cheaper version of the Switch, essentially. How they cut down the costs, I don't know. But they'll find a way to do that. Probably try and sell it for $200, and then only go below from there, and then maybe sell the Switch at like the regular Switch at $250. So that way they can lower the price point of the Switch down. Lower the price point of the Switch down, and lower the price point of the Switch down, and get not all of that market, but get more, not all of that market, but get, be able to sell to the cheaper, section of the market, to the people who are only willing to buy a dedicated gaming system under $300. So that is why they would do a Switch Mini, and that's why they would try to get it out of the holidays, because holidays is when you're buying the most amount of stuff. It's when you're willing to max out your credit card, for these sorts of things. So that's why I think the Switch Mini, if it happens this year, they're going to launch it in like November, and they're probably going to talk about it maybe sometime July, sometimes August, maybe even like September if they're feeling weird, because the 2DS XL was really, like, it came out of nowhere. Like, they announced it, and then like a month later it was out, and that's not been that's happened a lot of times. So Nintendo, they are the kings of left field. They'll do like random shit, and you'll never see it coming. So that is my, I guess, that is my explanation to you, is that Nintendo isn't stupid for the most part, and there's a good reason for them to release a Switch Mini, and it wouldn't jeopardize the Switch. It would only make it more successful, in my opinion. You can disagree with me if you want, but I follow, I'm pretty big into Nintendo. I follow a lot of their history, and this is what I think. That's me laying down my case. If you got a different justification for them, that's fine. And other people have said, the things that, get it out for the holidays if you want to sell them more. It's a pretty easy thing to think of. So I'm not going to say I'm like necessarily unique, but this is, my explanation from what I know of Nintendo. But I think that has been, not I think, but that was the last comment of that we had to go through. So thanks for sticking with me. Thanks for sticking with me for this episode. And if you like the webcam, then you can tell me. If you don't, then I will get rid of it. But I just got it today, along with a CPU cooler from Noctua, so I wanted to test it out. I'm not the best with making eye contact, so I am sorry about that. But I've taken up enough of your time already. I've been Joker the Fool. This has been Poll Review, And if you like it, then you can like the video, dislike it if that's what you feel like and you want to stick around for the next episode or whatever I decide to upload next. You can hit that subscribe button. But I'm going to go out and edit this video now. So goodbye.